Nathan Drake, that two-bit thief. Risking it all for some piece of treasure. I guess that's how they know me.
During Uncharted 3's development, something else has been brewing over at Naughty Dog. Their next big project was not Uncharted 4, but a brand new IP, a horror linear narrative title called. But from working on The Last of Us, Naughty Dog developed a lot of new and unique gameplay mechanics, like a different shooting system, crafting, the boost, an inventory, environmental storytelling, actual human characters. Look, there's a reason the game's been released 3 different times and has its own show. So after completely upturning the gaming industry with such an innovative and emotionally gripping game, Neil Druckmann stopped and went, okay, what's Nathan Drake up to? It had been 5 years since Uncharted 3, and the fan base was starving. So needless to say, the bar for the 4th Uncharted game was through the roof. And boy did Naughty Dog deliver. Uncharted 4, A Thief's End is the final title in Nathan Drake's story, which released in 2016. It follows Nathan Drake after he pretends to learn a lesson from the last game, where he's thrust out of retirement to help his long-lost brother pay off a life debt by finding the riches of a long-dead pirate, Henry Avery. Every aspect of Uncharted was turned up to 11 for this game, and it absolutely works, making Uncharted 4 the best Uncharted game possible. One of the biggest criticisms of the Uncharted series has been the climbing, and oh, how boring the climbing is, and gee, the climbing part is so boring. All you do is hold up. I want to do more walking simulations. I think Uncharted 3 is a masterpiece. Well, for Uncharted 4, climbing is pretty much the same, but it's used a lot more creatively this time. For example, now there's rock sliding. Bet you feel stupid now. But like in Uncharted 2, climbing is integrated into puzzles more, and it's become more central to combat sections. Plus, they added the piton, which mixes up the timing a bit and adds more variety than just holding stick and hitting X. But in terms of climbing upgrades, the real game changer is the rope. Climbing in previous entries could get a bit boring or repetitive, and each game tried as hard as they could to break things up, be it with gimmicks or visuals, but eventually Naughty Dog took a deep breath and plunged headfirst into the unknown. Introducing new gameplay mechanics in Uncharted. They added a rope, something I almost used on myself after playing Uncharted 3. But in Uncharted 4, you can swing for more than just rafters. Rope swinging grants the player a whole new level of control, which leads to more interesting climbing and combat gameplay. And while rope combat rules, there's no way Nate's beating the Indiana Jones allegations now. The rope can also be used for pulling objects like boxes to climb somewhere, or boxes to climb somewhere, or boxes to... While climbing has seen big improvements, combat's more or less the same. It's the same two-gun system since 2007. They did remove the ability to throw back grenades because that mechanic was stupid broken in 3. Also, thank God Neil fixed the stealth. Sort of. In previous Uncharted games, there was kind of stealth, like the game told you this was going to be a stealth section, but then didn't have stealth mechanics. After The Last of Us, Naughty Dog had a lot of tools in their arsenal when it came to better stealth mechanics, like complex distractions, knives, hearing, so they didn't use any of those. But what we did get are these diamonds that show when you're being spotted and when an enemy's suspicious. Enemies still radar lock onto you when one person notices you, but now if you wait too long enough, there's a bit of a cooldown where they'll lose interest. And I understand why they wanted to stray away from the groundedness of The Last of Us. It's probably why they dumbed down the stealth. Doesn't mean I think it's good. The real MVP of the stealth mechanics is the marker system, giving Drake object permanence for the first time in his life. Also for the first time in his life, Drake learns how to do new things. Sure, the rope, is cool and new, but that's still part of climbing. I'm talking about driving. Drake finally got his license, now he doesn't have to carpool anymore. He also got his boating license back after the first game. Based on how he handles it this time around, he probably shouldn't have, but those vehicles were added for a specific purpose, to explore the open world. That's right, Uncharted, you're looking at the next Skyrim, buddy. And there's dialogue options too, which have no effect on the narrative and only appear in the first half of the game, and then never come back. Genius, Neil. Genius. Genius, Neil. Genius, Neil. And don't even get me started on the Crash Bandicoot sections. This is probably the weirdest aspect of the game, where the developers just threw random stuff against the wall for, what, the finale in a series? Anyways, transition. Uncharted 4 treats the characters with a level of complexity unheard of in previous titles. Now, granted, the bar was on the floor, but it's cool to see they tried. When we start the game, Drake is retired, and has been for a few years now. As for Elena, she's still doing journalism things, but she and Drake got married, and good for her, has come out as a gamer. But their lives are totally turned upside down by the sudden reappearance of Drake's long-lost brother Sam, who needs Drake's help to help him find this ancient treasure and pay off his life debt to some drug lord who broke him out of prison. Drake's main objective in this game is not selfish. He just wants to save his brother by any means necessary. He's still got that selfish side, and the game dwells on this a little, but never follows through with any meaningful consequences. He and Elena's relationship gets tested a bit, but it gets sidelined too often due to the hundreds of armed goons constantly threatening their lives. Now as for Sam, well, Sam's complicated. He's a great foil to Drake, who wants nothing to do with treasure hunting anymore, which highlights how he's changed since the first game. Sam can be a little selfish though. He never fully feels trustworthy, which constantly keeps him interesting. Meanwhile, Sully, well, he's been the exact same since the first game. The same quit machine as always, adding barely anything to the plot, and who only exists now to highlight how much of a better character Sam is. But what's an Uncharted game without its villain? And in this one, it's Rafe. Definitely the most interesting villain Drake's been up against, but do I need to remind you where the bar has been? The game establishes a history between him and the Drake brothers, and how his obsession of treasure went beyond. He's evil, okay? The guy is evil, and he kills people for no reason, and he's rich. What's not to hate? He also sucks at his job. While Drake's been off all over the world going on all sorts of kooky adventures and discovering and demolishing multiple lost cities in the process, Rafe's been trying to find the same thing for like 10 years. While Sam's a foil to Drake, Rafe is a foil to Sam, acting as an example of what could happen if Sam's obsessions take over. There's also Nadine, Rafe's second in command, but I'm gonna be honest, she's only there for him to give exposition dumps to and then leaves for Uncharted Lost Legacy. But I'm not talking about that game, I'm talking about this game. And this game has some of the coolest set pieces in the entire series. Hell, some of the coolest set pieces in gaming. I'm serious. Let's start with the first big one, Italy. Starting out, a little rough. Lots of walking, lots of talking, a little bit of climbing. Okay, back to walking and talking. Once we hit the second portion though, the game introduces its new stealth elements. Not my favorite, but a huge improvement from 2, which if you recall, has just the worst stealth. Italy ends on a nice crescendo as all subtlety is dropped and we're reintroduced to good old mass murderer McGee here. But then we get to Madagascar and oh my god. Peak. Its first half is this faux open world gimmick where you drive through these beautiful landscapes and kill hundreds of people. Did I mention this game is beautiful? Every location is just absolutely gorgeous, full of life and color. The game is an absolute dessert to look at. But after the open world section, and I say it like that because they're still linearly designed, just really wide. After that section, Drake and Sully enter a seaside town in Madagascar, beginning my single favorite sequence of any Uncharted title ever. It opens with a walking simulator, which normally I would hate, but it gets the player accustomed to the environment, which we may return to later. Then we do this clock tower puzzle, where Drake has to climb up the gears on a clock tower and pull all these levers. It's awesome. There's another puzzle section, bit of a snoozer on the replay, but still fun. And then we re-emerge at the same city street as before, but now, huge shootout. That layout you had to slowly make your way through and absorb, now it's a battleground, one you're already familiar with. Genius. Fighting their way through that, Drake and Sully make their way to the Jeep. Boom, car chase, flames. Making his way through the city, Drake eventually lassos onto another car and begins fighting these guys on their own vehicles. And I need to reiterate this is all in gameplay. You do all this. The chase does a little victory lap at the end with what I can only imagine to be the 7th Crash Bandicoot reference at this point, and then we end it with a cutscene, fade to black. From start to finish, the stakes just get higher and higher and higher. I would recommend anyone this game for this sequence alone. It's so sick. Okay, I'm gonna skip over this section with the little island puzzles because they make absolutely no sense on the replay, and honestly, I just wanna get to the main island, AKA the second half of this game. Let's talk Libertalia, the hidden pirate city on an island off the coast of Madagascar. And for those of you keeping track at home, this is Drake's 3rd hidden city. Again, stakes are raised as we go from quaint villages, to cliffside buildings, to huge sunken mansions, all of which are filled to the brim with environmental storytelling, very Last of Us. And then right before the final boss, Drake has to slide, swing, and climb through these treacherous caves. There's no music, no friends, not a lot of light. It's a time to let the players sit with their thoughts and contemplate their experience with the game. A calm before the storm, if you will. As for the final boss itself, super cool. It's fun, it's challenging, and it fits thematically. What more could I ask for? So, that's the game. Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. And it does mean it when it says A Thief's End. I said at the beginning, this game is the best Uncharted can possibly be. As a series, Uncharted's gameplay is simple and repetitive. Every game has the challenge of breaking that up as much as possible to keep the player engaged, and Uncharted 4 does that the best, taking all the best aspects from the previous titles. Uncharted 1's vehicles, Uncharted 2's emphasis on set pieces and escalation of stakes, Uncharted 3's emphasis on character, and even The Last of Us with its environmental storytelling. I don't think they should make another Uncharted game. Naughty Dog has done everything they possibly can with this incredibly, incredibly simple gameplay format. They did it with 4. They made the best Uncharted game possible. And let's leave it at that.
I guess that's how they know me. How they'll remember me. But that's not who I am.
Until Lost Legacy and the Tom Holland movie. But the cool thing about reality is it's our own subjective opinion, which means I can pretend they never happened, and so can you.